In this section, we're going to go over a kind of factoring that you're going to run into a whole lot in future algebra classes, which is factoring trinomials that begin with just one x squared. Trinomials are polynomials with three terms. So basically, we're going to factor something with an x squared term, an x term, and a constant term. You're going to run into this a lot, so this is a very important section to practice and get very good at before moving forward. So let's start by reviewing the FOIL method. Let's say we have x minus 2 times x plus 7. If we do x times x, the first terms, we get x squared. Multiplying the outside terms, x times a positive 7 would be plus 7x. The inside terms, negative 2 times x is minus 2x. The last terms, negative 2 times 7 would be minus 14, like that. And then after we multiply, we combine the like terms. So here, 7x minus 2x would be 5x. And we end up with x squared minus 5x plus 14. Now what I want you to notice is the negative 14 is the same as negative 2 times 7. And the 5 in the middle is the same as negative 2 plus 7. That's going to be important to think about when we're working on the reverse, trying to factor it. So in terms of factoring x squared plus 5x minus 14, factoring is the reverse of multiplying. So if we look at our answer to our first problem, we can see that the answer to this factoring problem would be x minus 2 times x plus 7. Now, in general, if you multiply x plus a times x plus b, you're going to end up with x squared plus a plus b times x plus a times b. What this is going to do, this formula is going to help us think about factoring. Our goal is going to actually be in this section to start with something like the bottom and end up with something on the top. We're going to know that you're going to start, at least in this section, with an x at the beginning of each group. And the entire goal is going to be to figure out what goes at the end of each group. And what you're going to do is you're going to look at your middle number and your last number. You're going to find things that add to the middle number and that also multiply to be the last number. When you can find two numbers that add up to that middle coefficient, that multiply to that last number, that tells you what to put in the groups. For example, let's say we have x squared plus 8x plus 12, and we're trying to factor it. Split it up into two groups. I'm going to go ahead and leave a little bit of space, and then I'm going to put a parentheses with an x and another parentheses with an x. And what I'm trying to figure out is what to put at the end of each group to make it multiply together to what I'm starting with. And the whole key is remembering what we said a second ago. We're going to try to find two numbers that add up to 8 and multiply to be 12. A lot of times, because there's really infinitely many things you could think of that would add to 8, but multiplying to be 12, there's not as many of those. So what I like to do mentally is I think of things I could multiply to get 12. I could do 1 times 12, or 2 times 6, or 3 times 4. And then I think out of those, I need to pick the pair that would add up to 8. 1 times 12 adds up to 13, so I know that's not it. 2 plus 6, well, that adds up to 8. That's what I need. So the answer is x plus 2 times x plus 6. So the thought process you want to go through when you're trying to factor this kind of problem is what multiplies to be the last number that adds up to the middle number. Now notice we're factoring things in this section that have a 1 at the front, a 1x squared. Later on, we'll get to how to factor it when there's a different number at the front. So let's try our next one. Here we have x squared minus 2x minus 15. So when you're factoring a trinomial that starts with x squared, you can put an x at the beginning of each parentheses. X times x is x squared. Now our goal is going to be to figure out what we can multiply to get our last number, negative 15, that is going to add up to our middle number, negative 2. So let's make a table over here to the side. Once you get used to it, you don't have to make a table every time. You may be able to figure it out in your head. I'm going to go ahead and make a table for these just so if you can't see it, think of it right away, you make a list of things you can multiply to get 15, like 1 times 15 or 3 times 5. Now the trick is this is a negative 15. So when you're multiplying to be something negative, you know that you need to put one negative sign in your pair somewhere and see if you can make it add up to a negative 2. Now with 1 and 15, it wouldn't matter where I put a negative sign. Negative 1 plus 15 would be 14. 1 plus negative 15 would be a negative 14. So that's out. It's not going to add up to negative 2 no matter where I put the negative sign. Now if I look at that next one, if I put a negative in front of the 3, negative 3 plus 5 would be a positive 2. I want a negative 2, so I just put the negative sign in front of the 5. Now, 3 times 5 is negative 15. 3 plus negative 5 is negative 2. That's what I want. So here we have a positive 3 and a minus 5. The more you practice these problems, the easier it's going to get so that you might not need to write out a table every time, but it's never wrong just to take your time and think about it by writing a table out to the side.